So, everyone wants to know, when will we reopen and what will it look like? And that's true for many things, but for me, that question is asked a lot about our church. And the answers to those questions are, we don't know, and it depends. Our county has not yet presented a plan on what a staged reopening will look like exactly, and that's probably wise because they don't know enough of the variables yet to make those decisions set in stone. So we don't know exactly when we can have in-person worship services again. And we don't know what restrictions we will have to operate under. Not very satisfying, is it? So let's talk about possibilities. When might we reopen, and what might it look like? But you have to promise me you won't take this as a concrete plan because, everything could change tomorrow. It looks like we are past the peak numbers of new cases in our county. And it seems like those are going to gradually go down, although they have been kind of up and down the last few days. That means that St. Louis County may be willing to allow limited gatherings in late May or early June with social distancing requirements and caps on the number of people in one space. I think we are looking at a staged reopening. Phases, with gathering restrictions starting maybe smaller and increasing as we keep an eye on the numbers of infections. At least I think that's probably the best path forward. So if the stay-at-home order is lifted, let's say in late May or early June, but gathering restrictions are capped at something less than 50, maybe 10, we probably won't have any in-person services at church, even though we can get out of our homes. Churches in particular should not be too eager to reopen in all of this. And that may sound strange to some people, but let me explain why. Statistically speaking, churches have a much higher percentage of vulnerable people than the general population. Our congregations across the country just tend to skew older. Churches are also more prone to spreading the coronavirus than a lot of places. We're really friendly people, for one thing, and we like to sing, which spreads tons of the virus into the air. We have lots of little kids as well, who are hard to keep contained and away from other kids. So obviously we're going to do everything we can to make our church a safe place when we're able to have services in person again, but we should not rush to do that just because certain businesses are able to reopen. Churches have already been major spreading points for the coronavirus, and we don't want to add ours to that list. Churches also have less of a reason to need to reopen as quickly as some businesses. For many businesses, if customers aren't walking in the door, they're not making money and they can't pay their employees. We are incredibly blessed to have faithful giving continuing strong right now through online giving or people mailing in checks. We saw a big dip in our giving the first couple of weeks of stay at home, and then it rebounded in a big way, and we're doing really well right now. I do think we will probably see a gradual dip in giving over the next few months as the impact of people losing income starts to impact their ability to give. And we're aware of that and prepared for that, but we aren't laying off any employees. We aren't cutting pay. We aren't dropping missionaries. We aren't cutting back on ministry. If anything, we've increased our ministry efforts quite a bit, just in some different ways. So if some businesses are reopened, but the church is still staying apart and doing ministry in the digital world, that's probably a very wise thing. It means less people getting sick. But the worship and the ministry and the care and the discipleship and the teaching will all continue for us. I do hope we can get back together very soon. But we would rather be smart and care for people than be arrogant and selfish and insist that we should get to be in the same place at the same time or it's just not church. That's a rather small view of the church and maybe a small view of God. Eventually, we may see gathering restrictions at the 50-person limit or maybe the 100-person limit. And that's probably when we can start doing some in-person services. Many will still stay at home and we will still design our services for that online audience as well. We have lots of auditoriums, though, on our campus, and we have 3 large entrances, so we can safely accommodate a lot of people if we do things carefully. That means extensive sanitation of our building, which is already happening regularly. It means signing up for a specific service ahead of time in a specific room. Social distancing at church. Families can sit together, of course, with their kids, greeters holding the doors open so that you could literally come and go without touching anything with your hands the entire time you're at church, and wearing masks in case anyone has the virus and is asymptomatic. We may need some new greeters in case several of our current greeters are more vulnerable and need to wait to return. Normal Kid Connection will need to lag behind the rest of the church in opening. But we can have family-themed services in some of our rooms with tables for families to sit together and activity sheets and even special elements in the services that are fun for the kids. We'll probably have to stagger the service times to make sure there are never more than the allowed number of people in one space at the same time, including hallways. We may have to make most of the music a listening-only experience for a while, since singing is a big spreader of the virus. And it's hard to sing with a mask on anyway, so make a joyful noise in your heart and your mind. Coffee and donuts will probably be out for a while, so we'll need to bring our own and keep them to ourselves. Every handshake, hug, and high five will need to be of the air variety. Communion will probably take place at the end of the service as people leave with spread out elements prepared for self-service. We won't be handing out bulletins, but we have an online version we're rolling out very soon. Giving will be mostly online, but we may have boxes available at the doors as people leave. We're certainly not going to pass anything through the seats. Groups will be able to meet if they follow all of the social distancing guidelines and restrictions that are in place at the time. And with the weather being so nice now, even the groups that usually meet at church may take place in people's driveways or yards instead of at the church building. Those are the types of things we're thinking through, and honestly, that's just the tip of the iceberg. But they are the things I wanted you to know about and be prepared for, be mentally ready for when the time comes. Even if the gathering restrictions are higher than 100, maybe 250, all of this will still probably apply. And we may be even more strict than the county technically allows because we have the technology, the staff, and the resources to do so effectively. We have options to minister in creative and safe ways that not every church has. So we are very thankful to God for that, and so thankful for your giving, which makes it possible. Eventually, we will be able to have large services in our auditorium again, but we will probably need to do that with social distancing. And that may mean adding an extra service or two, maybe on a Thursday night or a Saturday night to accommodate people's work schedules. And of course, at some point, this will all be a memory. We will go back to sitting closer and forgetting about social distancing. Some of our new learned behaviors will probably stick around. Shaking hands and hugging may see a decrease overall for a long time. We will probably be much more mindful of our hygiene and careful when we have any symptoms of a cold or flu. We may see our numbers of the cold and flu go down quite a bit for years to come. And a lot of the innovation that has happened in this time is here to stay. Delivery is king. Businesses and churches will be thinking even more about digital when planning things. Having remote support, care, discipleship, and teaching is going to become even more prevalent in the next few years. Online meetings and even social gatherings will continue to be very popular, all taking place online over video. Just like Paul and the early missionaries in the New Testament church used the technologically impressive Roman roads to spread the gospel, we will use new technologies and social habits to share the love of Jesus and care for people even more effectively. Well, I hope this little glimpse into the future gives you some reassurance and some hope. You can know what we're thinking about. We're going to get through this together. God is not finished with us yet. We want you to know that we love you. We want God's best for you. And we hope you'll be an even more active and engaged part of our church family moving forward. If nothing else, COVID-19 has reminded us that life is short. Some things matter more than others. And faith and family need to be priorities in our lives. Take care.